The first time my father tried to take my insurance money, he didn't ask. He acted like it already belonged to him. I was sitting across from him at the kitchen table, the same one where he used to lecture me about responsibility, discipline, and earning your place in the world. Now he was sliding a stack of papers toward me like it was just another lesson. "Sign it," he said casually. "It's just a formality." I didn't touch the documents. "What is it?" He leaned back in his chair, confident, relaxed, like there was no version of reality where I would say no. "It transfers the payout," he said. "This makes things easier for everyone." "Everyone?" I almost laughed. "There's no everyone," I said. "It's my claim." His expression didn't change, not even slightly. "That money exists because of this family," he replied. "Because of what we built." Built. The word sat wrong, heavy, because the truth was, the insurance policy wasn't about the family. It was about what happened after everything fell apart. "I paid the premiums," I said quietly. "Not you." My father smiled slightly. Not warm, not proud, just patient. Like he was dealing with someone who didn't understand how things worked yet. "You're thinking too small," he said. "This isn't about you holding on to money you don't know how to manage." There it was. It's the real reason. Control. It had always been control. "I know exactly how to manage it," I replied. He tapped the papers with his finger. "No," he said calmly. "You don't." The room felt smaller suddenly, tighter, like every word was closing in. "This isn't a discussion," he added. "Wait." I looked at him. Really looked at him. At the man who had spent years telling me I wasn't ready, wasn't capable, wasn't enough. And now, he was trying to take the one thing that proved I was. "No," I said. The word landed harder than I expected. His smile disappeared instantly. "What did you say? Not signing anything?" Silence. Thick, immediate. My father leaned forward slowly, his voice dropping just enough to carry weight. "You don't want to make this difficult." I didn't respond, because something inside me had already shifted. "You think this is your money?" he continued. "But legally, things aren't always that simple." That caught my attention. "What does that mean?" "It means," he said, folding his hands together, "you might not have as much control over it as you think." A warning, not subtle, not hidden, clear, deliberate. I felt something cold settle in my chest. "What did you do?" I asked quietly. He didn't answer, not directly. Instead, he stood up, straightened his shirt, and gave me one last look. "But you'll understand soon enough," he said. Then he walked out of the room, and just like that, the conversation was over.
But the problem wasn't.
Because 2 days later, I received a notice. Official stamped. Court issued. My father wasn't asking anymore. He was taking me to court. The courtroom felt colder than I expected. Not physically, but emotionally. Like every wall had absorbed years of arguments, lies, and quiet betrayals, and now it was waiting for another one. I sat at the defendant's table, my hands resting still, controlled, even though everything inside me felt anything but. Across the room, my father looked completely at ease, calm, prepared. Like this was just another situation he had already figured out how to win. He wasn't alone. Next to him sat a sharply dressed attorney, flipping through a thick file with quiet confidence. Every movement was precise, rehearsed, efficient. This wasn't a last-minute decision. This was planned, carefully, deliberately. I watched as my father leaned over slightly, whispering something to his lawyer. They both smiled faintly, like they were discussing something routine, like this wasn't personal, like I wasn't sitting right there. "Case number 47B, the clerk called out, her voice echoing lightly through the room. My name followed, then his, side by side. That felt strange. Wrong, like we weren't supposed to be on opposite sides of anything, but here we were. "Please rise," the clerk added. The judge entered. Everyone stood. And just like that, the room shifted into something formal, structured, controlled. The kind of place where emotions didn't matter. Only facts. Only arguments. Only what could be proven. "Be seated," the judge said. We sat. My father's lawyer stood immediately. "Your Honor," he began smoothly, "this case concerns the rightful allocation of an insurance payout connected to a shared family asset." Shared. There it was again. That word, carefully chosen. Carefully framed. The plaintiff, he continued, gesturing toward my father, has substantial evidence that the policy in question was maintained under circumstances that legally bind it to the family structure, not the individual. I felt my jaw tighten slightly. That wasn't just misleading. It was strategic. He wasn't arguing facts. He was building perception. The judge nodded slightly. Go on, the defendant, the lawyer continued, now gesturing toward me as attempting to claim sole ownership of funds that were, in essence, sustained through collective contribution and long-standing financial interdependence. Collective contribution. Financial interdependence. Big phrases, clean, convincing, but not true, not even close. I glanced at my father. He didn't look at me, not once. Like eye contact would complicate something he needed to keep simple. Your Honor, the lawyer added, it will demonstrate that allowing the defendant to retain full control of these funds would be both legally questionable and fundamentally unjust. Unjust. The irony almost made me smile. The judge turned slightly, and the defense, the first piece of evidence my father presented, almost made me laugh. Almost. His lawyer placed a neatly organized folder on the table and slid what toward the judge with quiet confidence. Honor, he said, we'd like to submit documentation showing the history of financial support tied to the policy. The judge nodded. Proceed. Pages were opened. Highlighted sections pointed out. Dates, numbers, transfers. At first glance, it looked convincing. Very convincing.
This,
the lawyer continued, demonstrates a consistent pattern of shared financial responsibility within the household. Utilities, expenses, indirect contributions, indirect. That word did a lot of work. Because it blurred the line between truth and assumption, these contributions, he added, created an environment in which the policy could be sustained. Therefore, the payout cannot reasonably be considered independent. I felt the strategy immediately. He wasn't proving ownership. He was reframing context, turning background noise into legal weight. The judge studied the documents carefully. Interesting, he said. That one word tightened something in my chest, because interesting wasn't rejection. It wasn't acceptance either. It was uncertainty. And uncertainty helped them. My father sat back slightly, his confidence returning piece by piece. Your Honor, his lawyer continued, we also have a signed statement indicating that the defendant verbally acknowledged the family's involvement in maintaining financial stability. My head snapped up slightly. A signed statement? The document was handed over. The judge read it silently. I watched his expression carefully, looking for any shift, any reaction. This statement, the judge said slowly, suggests acknowledgement of shared dependency. There it was, the shift. Small, but dangerous. My father finally looked at me, and in his eyes, I saw it. Victory, premature, but real. Do you wish to respond? The judge asked, turning toward me. I stood again, calm, unrushed. That statement, I said evenly, was taken out of context. My father's lawyer smiled slightly. Context, he repeated, is exactly what we are establishing. I nodded. Then let's establish all of it. I got the judge's attention. How so? He asked. I reached down slowly, picked up my own folder. Simpler, but precise. I'd like to submit additional documentation, I said. The clerk stepped forward, taking the papers and handing them to the judge. The room went quiet again. Focused. Watching. Waiting. The judge opened the file. His eyes moved across the first page, then the second and then he stopped. Where did you obtain this? The judge asked. Directly from the insurer, I replied. My father's lawyer shifted slightly. Your Honor, I continued, the policy includes a clause regarding external interference and unauthorized claims. The judge looked back down at the document, reading more carefully now, and that's when my father's confidence disappeared. Because suddenly, this wasn't his game anymore. The courtroom didn't feel the same anymore. The balance had shifted, and everyone in the room could feel it. The judge sat back slightly, the document still in his hands, his expression no longer neutral. Now, it was focused, serious. Counsel, he said, looking toward my father's lawyer, were you aware of this clause? The question landed hard, because it wasn't casual. It was direct. My father's lawyer adjusted his posture slightly. Your Honor, We were not provided. That wasn't my question, the judge interrupted calmly. Silence, sharp, controlled. No, Your Honor, the lawyer admitted. That was the moment everything cracked. Not loudly, not dramatically, but enough. Enough for the entire case to tilt. The judge nodded once, then looked back down at the document. This clause, he said slowly, clearly defines sole ownership and explicitly protects the policyholder from external claims, particularly those made under familial pressure or informal financial association. Every word felt deliberate, precise, final. My father shifted in his seat for the first time. He looked uncomfortable. Additionally, the judge continued, it outlines legal consequences for any party attempting to misrepresent entitlement to the payout. That part hit harder, much harder. My father's lawyer tried to recover. Your Honor, if I may, you may not, the judge said firmly. The interruption cut clean through the room. No room for argument, no room for recovery. Because this wasn't going their way anymore, not even close. The judge closed the file gently, then looked directly at my father. Sir, he said, his tone calm but unmistakably firm. This court does not take kindly to attempts to manipulate legal interpretation for personal gain, especially in matters involving clear contractual ownership. My father opened his mouth, but no words came out. This case, the judge continued, is not complicated. The policy belongs solely to the defendant. The claim is valid, uncontested under law, and fully protected by the terms presented. Furthermore, the judge added, I strongly advise against pursuing further action on this matter. The gavel came down once, sharp, decisive, case dismissed.